I'm
And
doing great, thank you.
this
Thanks for
is
having me.
this is Nagmeezy. He's a friend of mine, and he's going to be moderating.
All right, wonderful. Sorry, I don't have professional equipment on or anything. Just coming from the heart, man.
Oh, it's all good. My equipment is not professional. This is Walmart stuff. But I'm gonna go ahead and put the first um, debate topic up, and I'll let Nagmeezy, moderate.
All right, so just to say thank you for everyone tuning in. Thank you for um, both of actually the host and the guest, and we're always going to start with the guest. But this debate is about Black conservatives, moderate versus what is it? Moderate versus
Conservative.
Conservative.
yes. I'm sorry. So yeah, welcome both of you. What we're gonna do is we're gonna have this debate in the spirit of knowledge and in the spirit of exchanging ideas. Even if we have opposing ideas, we can express them as intelligent men without throwing insults and shots at each other.
That's
All
right.
right. For those who are going to watch it on Facebook, thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. And those that watch us live, I would just say if you have a question or if you have something, just put it in the chat that we'll get around to it. So now the rules are going to be, we're going to have 4 topics. And as a compromise, I believe MAGA Harry, your name is MAGA Harry, right? MAGA Harvey, I'm sorry.
Right.
MAGA Harvey wanted 5-minute rounds. Enemy Nation wanted 3. So we're gonna do 4. I think that's a good compromise there.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do 4-minute rounds, and then at the end of the round, 2-minute rebuttals for each one of you. And then at the end, we're going to have a sort of a crossfire type, free flow.
Let me go
And
grab. I'm going to grab one piece of paper. I'll be right back. I'm listening.
Good. And I like the paper aspect because as one brother is speaking, you could write your points down so that when we stay on topic, we respect each other's time and that we can really just hit succinct points. So while MAGA Harvey is getting his equipment, I'd like Enemy Nation just to introduce himself to his audience and the people that are watching on the replay.
Hey everyone, this is Enemy Nation. I'm a black moderate conservative, so not a staunch conservative. So I'm center right, and that's what my channel is pretty much geared around. Just information, and that's it. I'll pass it to MAGA.
All right. It's actually Dwayne Harvey, but I'm out here. I am a staunch conservative. Have been one. I don't know. I've been growing in that road. I'm born and raised in Detroit, from the hood, definitely. But became a conservative. Let's see, maybe around George Bush's time or so, or just became independent and became more and more conservative as I got more into it. And now I'm a staunch conservative, Trump supporter, and I think that's the only way you can go. But that's my opinions, and we'll see. We'll discuss, share some thoughts. I can't convince nobody, of anything. Like I said, my goal is just to share some information, and you'll do with it what you will.
And I am your moderator for tonight. My name is Nagmeezy. I have a YouTube channel of the same name, all caps, from New York City, Brooklyn, born and raised, and Brooklyn. I was a hardcore Democrat until I actually started thinking for myself, and now I'm dipping my foot into the pool of conservatism. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be learning as I moderate these two brothers' debate tonight. So the first topic that we're going to have is there was a switch in platforms between most of the Democrat and Republican parties. The only thing that has remained the same was the ideologies of the two. So I'm going to give that one to Conservative Thug, and your 4 minutes starts now.
Okay, thank you. So I contend that there was no switch in platforms. I think even my friend here has acknowledged that there was no switch. People left the party. So blacks left the Republican Party, and whites switched. People switched, but the ideologies of the parties remain the same. And that's the whole thing. It's the party. It doesn't matter. Let's say if a black person is feeding me poison or a white person is feeding me poison, it doesn't matter their skin color. The poison is going to kill me. And that's what I'm telling you. The ideology of the Democrats has been oppressive from the beginning. They were the original slave owners. They knew how to break up homes. They knew how to break up our homes, our black families. That's what they did when they were slave owners. And that's what their policies, that's what the New Deal did for us, start a mass explosion of single motherhood homes where the father or the man can't be in the home to receive welfare and abortion. So the oppressive policies that they use, that they've used in the beginning, and that they still promote today, and that's the same. So yes, people switch. People switched this year. There are many Republicans and Democrats that switched this year. Does that mean the party switched because because some people switched the party? No, the parties are still the same. The people, the juggernauts that are behind the parties are still in control. Those are the ones that you switched over and aligned with. So yes, I acknowledge that there was a great switching. And to be honest, it was who was it, Hoover, or was it Lyndon B. Johnson that said that he was going to have those N-words voting Democrat for the next 200 years? Because
Harvey, hold on right there. I'm going to pause your time. Enemy Nation, would you mute yourself because we can hear you flipping through pages?
Oh, okay, sorry about that.
Okay, so resume, MAGA Harvey, please.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. So Lyndon Johnson said, I'll have those N-words voting Democrat for the next 200 years when he introduced the welfare bill. And so he figured, by giving us money or thinking that he's giving us money, he's going to keep us enslaved to the Democrat Party. And that there's two ways to make a slave. One is you force him and you make him work and you don't give him money. The other way is you give him money for doing no work. And now you're dependent on me. And that's what has happened, sadly, for many of our generations are dependent upon the government, and looking to the government for our handout, whereas we should be depending on ourselves and definitely being able to manage ourselves. So it's the policies that are killing us, that have been oppressive from the beginning. Abortion was started by a eugenics person that hated, she was a KKK member that hated blacks and wanted to eliminate blacks. And her idea was to use the black church to distribute abortion, right? And they put more of the abortion clinics in the black neighborhood. We're the only race that is not recreating. Our numbers are dwindling because we have so many abortions. That was started by the Democrats. That's still promoted by the Democrats today. So I don't care who's in charge of the Democrats, whether it's a black person or white person, they're still doing the same things. They still have the same ideology. And so even Obama, what did we get from Obama? Obama, that's the gall of it, that Obama, the black president, did not give 1 cent, did not do anything for the black community, but we had a 60% increase, a 60% increase in people on welfare under Obama, black people on welfare, okay? So no, it doesn't matter. The Democrats have been oppressive. Then this is the scripture that reference, the Bible says, if you're born of the flesh, you will be flesh. What's born of the flesh is flesh, what's born of the spirit is spirit. And the Democrats were born of oppressing. They started off oppressing with the KKK, and that's still the same policies that they face today. I don't care, black person, white person. Even look at Kamala Harris. Look at. I mean, she let a black man stay on death row, brother, and he was a black man. She did not care. She had information that would have freed him and saved his life. She didn't care about that black man one bit.
And that's your 4 minutes. Brother MAGA Harvey came out swinging with a lot of points. Just to recap: single motherhood, welfare, the KKK, Lyndon Johnson, abortion. I believe he's speaking about Margaret Sanger, and eugenics. So now I'm going to give it to Enemy Nation. The same question, the same topic, and your time starts now.
Okay. Well, there's a difference between the ideology and a philosophy. And like I said in our exchange, that so the platforms did switch. In 1964, specifically with Barry Goldwater, he was asked to include civil rights and denounce the KKK in the Republican platform of 1964, which he did not. As well as there were talk of the KKK being extremist groups, and the extremism with the KKK as well as McCarthyism back in the 60s. And so Barry Goldwater refused to put that into the Republican platform, which alienated blacks that were moderates as well as liberal Republicans like the Rockefeller Republicans, which essentially forced those blacks out of the Republican Party and made a choice, either get with civil rights or get with us conservatives. And so that was the choice that blacks had. So many of those blacks that were in the Republican Party, not the staunch conservatives, but the moderate conservatives and the liberal Republicans, they went to the Democratic Party and started voting with the Democratic Party because they were more focused on, in those black people's eyes, they were more sensitive to the black struggle. As well as before that, there was the Lily White movement that Republicans was forcing out after Reconstruction. They started forcing out blacks. So the shift of blacks to the Democrat Party had started way before 1964, and it was not out of choice, but it was mostly out of force. And so understanding that the philosophy of the Republican Party changed after Reconstruction, which was civil rights for black people. Their cause in the beginning was for slavery. After slavery was ended, that weakened the cause because now there is no slavery. What are you doing now? Okay, well, we got civil rights for these blacks. We need to enfranchise these blacks to get them to vote. So once Reconstruction happens and you're getting the blacks to vote, now what's your cause? Well, the ending of your cause is going to be just protecting the republic as what you started out with. The Democratic Party's cause has always been to move forward, to push forward. Okay, and they just changed their tactics.
So are you not going to take your full 4 minutes? You have 40 seconds left.
Well, yeah, I'll take the remaining time. Yeah, but that's what I contend is that the ideologies remain the same. One is the concentration of power, and one is the resistance of concentration and power. One party is playing offense, the other party is playing defense. That's why conservatives or the Republicans, they seem so boring because they're playing defense. They never play offense because that's what their party's ideology is. They just, the platforms change. Donald Trump ran on the populist platform.
And that's your time. So to recap, ideology versus philosophy, Barry Goldwater, the Republicans were alienated. The black Republicans were alienated and forced out mainly by the Lily White movement and the cause after Reconstruction. So can I ask you a question really quickly?
Sure.
Were blacks historically Republican or Democrat from the beginning?
Historically Republican.
Okay. All right. That's what I wanted to clarify for myself. Now, the second topic, if you can put that on the screen.
Do I get to rebut any of that?
I was just going to ask you before I started speaking about the second topic. I just want to put that up there. I'm going to give you 2 minutes for rebuttal.
Okay.
And you can start that now.
All right, great. So real quick, the Republicans were the ones that supported the voter rights. The Republicans supported the Civil Rights Act, voted for that 80%. So if they were against blacks, then why did they support the Civil Rights Act when the Democrats only supported only 50%, only about 60% of the Democrats supported the Civil Rights Act. So it was still the Republicans that were still supporting it up until the time of the thing. So, and this is just common sense. So you telling me that these slave owners that fought and shed their blood to keep us as slaves, all of a sudden they had an epiphany and they started to love black people. That's the message that they want you to believe. Or is that somehow they didn't come to Jesus, they hate God, they deny God, but you want me to believe that somehow they started loving black people? Or is it more plausible that they are just covering up their tracks? They're trying to change history and want you to say, nah, that wasn't us. We're not racist. Well, they're still doing the same thing. They're still promoting abortion. They're still promoting welfare. They're still promoting the slavery and the indoctrination of our kids, right? So these are things that all started under the KKK that they're still doing today, right now, even though they have a black person in charge. So that's my rebuttal.
Okay, and you were right on time. Alienation. Enemy Nation. I'm sorry, I'm thinking about movies. Enemy Nation. Rebuttal.
No, I think that after World War II and fighting Nazism, the entirety of the United States was changing their view on keeping people down based on their race or the religion. So it wasn't just the Democrats; it was people all throughout the country that said, "Hey, look, maybe we should look at more inclusion as far as instead of being bigots." And so, with the integration of the military, as well as the Brown versus Board of Education decision, and so on and so forth, the entirety of the country, as well as the rest of the world, was looking at the United States like, how can you say liberty when you treat these black people like that? So the pressure was on both parties to do so. So that's why you see the shift in the rhetoric from the Democrat Party. And furthermore, the Northern Democrats, there were war Democrats that went to war in the Civil War, and they were Democrats. They were abolitionists. They didn't want slavery as well. So not all Democrats were the same. These were Southern Democrats. These were Dixiecrats that you're talking about.
All right. And as late as 1960, the great Malcolm X said these words, and this is still online today, that any black person that voted for a Democrat was not only a chump, this is what he called them. Not only were they a chump, but they were a traitor to their race. Because as late as 1960, Malcolm X saw that the Democrats had control of House, Senate, President, and made a whole bunch of promises, but never did anything for blacks. That's the way they do today. Obama didn't do nothing for us. Now Biden locked us up. Biden and Clinton locked us up. So they don't do any of that for us, man. You can put the lily white thing up, movement up there, right? But that's from Wikipedia. That means anybody can submit that, right? I can just submit this article and say this is facts. That don't necessarily make it true. That's somebody's opinion right there. But the thing of it is that Malcolm X saw this, that the Democrats, as late as 1960, were just lying to us and manipulating black people. And he said that he saw so much so that he said any black that voted for a Democrat was a traitor to his race.
That's not what he said.
That's exactly.
Hold on, brother.
Exactly what he said.
Enemy Nation, I'm going to yield 1 minute and 10 seconds to you because actually the 2-minute rebuttals were finished. But since MAGA Harvey spoke, I'll give you 1 minute and 10 seconds to rebut his post rebuttal.
Okay, well, first thing I want to rebuttal, and is the fact that when we look at, I pick up Wikipedia because they do more research than I do, but you're welcome to find, you're welcome to pick any website that you want off of Google instead of using Wikipedia that you agree with. You know, I probably can't pick off anything that you agree with. Normally, I use DuckDuckGo, but because I have to use StreamYard on to share my screen on Google Chrome. That's why I'm using Google Chrome. But that's just a tactic to discredit the information that is coming from Wikipedia, so it shouldn't be trusted. These people do more research than I'm willing to go to libraries and do this and that. They do the research, okay? Secondly, as far as Malcolm X didn't say exclusive Democrat. What he said was, if you vote for a party, because he was talking about the Democrats, so it sounded like he said Democrats because he led in with Democrats, but he said any black person that votes for a party that doesn't that doesn't cater to you first or something to that effect, then you're a traitor to your race. So he didn't.
And that's your 1 minute and 10 seconds right there.
Okay.
MAGA Harvey, you sound like you wanted to rebut on the democratic aspect of Malcolm X's statement. Do you have anything to say?
I was going to bring it up, but the point is this, and whether he said Democrat Party, the point is that he was talking about the Democrats. He was specifically before that. Let's take it all in context. He was talking about how we vote for Democrats and how the black folks is voting for Democrats. Right in the 60s, this is when it started, and he said, that we are trading our race because specifically the Democrats are the ones that come and try to befriend us, say they're our friend, but are stabbing us in the back. Now that's in context of what he was saying. And they're using the same tricks today, man. The same tricks that they're using then, it's the same tricks. It's not nothing new. They haven't changed nothing. They're just using the same identity politics. We feel like because there's a black person in charge that he's got our best interests at hand, but he's bought and paid for more than likely. And I'm telling you,
Enemy Nation, your response to that context.
And that's I have the problem with not the problem what he's saying about Democrats, because I've said the same thing. However, I have to follow my sword when I repeat certain things and then I go hear it for myself. And what I heard in that exchange, because I have the video literally on my channel.
Let's play it. Let's play it.
Is that cool? Not easy.
That is absolutely cool because this seems like a point of contention, and we're speaking about context and what Malcolm X actually said. So if we can come with the receipts, I'd appreciate that.
Okay, let me find it real quick.
And we're playing this video clip to establish whether Malcolm X was speaking to the political establishment or specifically the Democrats.
I got it, brother, if you don't.
Let me see if this one is it. Okay, so that's not that one.
It's just like a 2-minute clip right here.
Oh, you found it?
Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who goes to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You can keep Johnson in Washington, D.C., or you can send him back to his Texas cotton patch. You're the one who sent Kennedy to Washington. You're the one who put the present Democratic administration in Washington, D.C. The whites were evenly divided. It was the fact that you threw 80% of your votes behind the Democrats that put the Democrats in the White House. When you see this, you can see that the Negro vote is the key factor. And despite the fact that you are in a position to be the determining factor, what do you get out of it? The Democrats have been in Washington, D.C. only because of the Negro vote. They've been down there 4 years. And all other legislation they wanted to bring up, they brought it up and gotten it out of the way, and now they bring up you. And now they bring up you. You put them first and they put you last. Because you're a chump. A political chump. In Washington, D.C., in the House of Representatives, there are 257 who are Democrats. Only 177 are Republicans. In the Senate, there are 67 Democrats. Only 33 are Republicans. The party that you back controls 2/3 of the House of Representatives and the Senate, and still they can't keep their promise to you because you're a chump. Anytime you throw your weight behind a political party that controls 2/3 of the government, and that party can't keep the promise that it made to you during election time, and you're dumb enough to walk around continuing to identify yourself with that party, you're not only a chump, but you're a traitor to your race.
Okay, I would say stop the video right there for time's sake. Enemy Nation, what after listening to that clip, do you still hold the same view that he wasn't speaking about the Democratic Party specifically?
At that moment, yes, but I mean, it's not as clear cut as, it's not as clear cut as the affirmative is trying to, as it's trying to make it seem. Like he's saying that regardless, right? Regardless of party, if you put your backing behind the party and then they don't put you first, and you go around saying that you're this member of this party, you're a traitor to your race. That's what he's saying. That he was talking about the Democrats at that moment in time. So what I get from that, if it was a Republican and he was still doing that, when he say now that they bring up you, he'd say Republicans. But he wasn't saying, hey, look, he criticized Republicans and Democrats. So to project it as if Malcolm X only hated Democrats and didn't hate Republicans the same, which he didn't, but didn't also despise Republicans, is disingenuous as well as deceiving. It's deceitful.
MAGA Harvey?
As the words speak for themselves, you heard it in context, and I will agree that there's some racism on the Republican side, no doubt. The Republicans are not doing what they should be doing regarding blacks. That's no doubt. I will concede that definitely, but I liken it to two things, and I'm keeping this spiritual. This is just me, right? I see the Republican as kind of like the backslidden church. They're not doing right, at all. But I see the Democrats as just Satan worshipers. I mean, they're flat out on the wrong side of the track, going in the opposite direction. So which one you choose to get with it is with you. I'll take my chances with the backslidden church and see if I can't get them right. I know which way the Democrats are headed, and it's totally the wrong direction for us.
And that's a perfect segue into the next topic, which are Bible issues. So if Enemy Nation can put the next topic question up, then we can use the same format and go 4 minutes each, and then 2-minute rebuttals, and then a little freestyle right after. Okay, so again, we're going to start with MAGA Harvey, and the topic is the Old and New Testament are wildly different, one more conservative than the other. MAGA?
So I love Jesus. I love God. This is just too easy. It's too much to share, but let me try to contain myself and put it here. So first off, the Bible itself tells you in 2 Corinthians 3:14 that there's a veil over the Old Testament readings. You can't just come. So God is like a treasure, and anytime you're trying to find a treasure, you got to dig into it. You got to dig in the earth. You got to put some effort into it to really try to uncover and find it out. God is a treasure. He's not just laying around for you to find per se happenstance, right? If you really want God, you got to put some effort into it. So the Bible says itself, again, 2 Corinthians 3:14, that there's a veil over the Old Testament. So the understanding of the Old Testament is not readily available to everybody. It says you got to bring it to Christ. You got to understand it through the lens of Christ to understand. And Jesus said these very same words here in John 3:6. I'm sorry, not John 3:6. What is it? John 5:39. John 5:39. He told the Jews, he said, search the scriptures. He told them, go ahead, search the scriptures, for you think they will give you life. You think that you will have life in them, but you don't come to me so that you can receive life. Wow, that's a powerful word. So anybody can read the Bible. Who is that? David Koresh read the Bible. The devil reads the Bible. The devil quotes the Bible, right? So it's not about reading the Bible or scripture. It's about knowing God, having a relationship with God so that he can unfold to you and understand what his word really is saying. That's the whole thing of it. Anybody, the devil reads the Bible. That's the first thing the first temptation, Adam and Eve. God said this, and the devil says, did God say that? No, God really meant this. So it's been going on forever as far as what God says and what it means. But the whole understanding of it is when you come to Christ, when you come to God, give him your heart. And then he explains, he reveals himself to you. He is a treasure. He must be sought after. He will not just reveal himself to anybody just happenstancely. You just come for God. No, God is a treasure. And if you really want him, he'll reveal himself to you. And it all boils down to, and I love this because it boils down to politics and God. To me, as I said, they come from the same. I see everything from the lens of God. And what they do in politics is they sell you fear, right? And they want you to be more concerned about yourself. They want you to be concerned about you, and you put yourself above what is the will of God, what is the right thing to do. That's what he did with Adam and Eve, right? Oh, you can be this, you can be that. But the will of God says don't eat of this fruit. But the devil comes and he's telling you, well, if you worry about yourself more, concerned about, he gets us to be concerned about ourselves more than what we know God has said. Because that's the exact way that he went. The devil's not coming to try to get you to be a devil worshiper per se. He's trying to get you to worry about yourself. He's trying to get you to be concerned about what you are. You become God. This is what happens in a lot of churches. They're worried about the money. They're worried about the finances. They're worried about themselves and not God, not what God has said. Who's worried about what God says is right? Who's worried about the will of God? Not too many. Everybody's worried about themselves. And that's what politicians do. They make you scared for yourself, afraid for yourself, and they manipulate us through that fear. And all we're worried about is ourselves. How can we support a party that kills black babies?
And I'm going to have to stop you right there. And I hate to stop a brother as he's flowing about the Most High. But I do have to ask you, did you really articulate the topic, which was the Old and New Testament are wildly different, one more conservative than the other? I don't believe that question was answered, although what you said was some good stuff. But now we're going to give it back to Enemy Nation and with the same question.
Okay. First I want to bring up this, and I know it's kind of unfair to Mr. Harvey because he doesn't have the platform to share his screen, but he can still dispute the information that I share. Okay, so I pulled up Bible Reasons from BibleReasons.com. I hope that's a credible source. But it says 8 major differences from of the Old and New Testament, right? And it has these 8, the books and authors, the atonement of sins, the person of Christ. It also has prayer and worship, purpose, the Old Testament versus the New Testament God. So it has these differences. And the main issue is the covenants. Okay, so when it's talk about the covenants in the Old and New Testament, It says a covenant is a special type of promise. There were 7 covenants made in the Bible. These fall under 3 categories: conditional, unconditional, and general. In the Old Testament, there is the Mosaic covenant. It was conditional, meaning the descendants of Abraham were to obey God, they would receive his blessings. And that's pretty much the gist of that covenant. Now, if we go to the New Testament, then in the New Testament, we are given the new covenant. This one is mentioned in Jeremiah and extended to all believers in Matthew and Hebrews. So this one is more restrictive to the descendants of Abraham as far as receiving God's blessings. Okay. Whereas in the New Testament, okay, so this is restrictive, this is conservative, right? In the New Testament is a little bit more liberal in the conclusion that we can praise God for it's more liberal that his blessings is extended to all believers in Matthew and Hebrews. This promise says that God will forgive the sin and have an intimate relationship with his people. And it should say through Jesus after that. But before, you couldn't go through Jesus. Before, you had to do sacrifices and a number of other things. All right. But in this second covenant, it explicitly says that you can have salvation by believing in Jesus Christ. And that is not just extended to Hebrews, it's extended to all mankind. And I'll yield the remaining time to Mr. Harvey.
Okay.
I'll take that. Let me take this 30 seconds. I don't think that it's fair if we're using technology that's not available to MAGA. I think
okay.
if it doesn't bother him, then it's cool with me. So MAGA, your rebuttal.
It's good. It's good. So I would say, as I was getting started, that the scripture that I gave, that there is a veil or an understanding limitation upon the Old Testament. So to really understand the Old Testament, you have to bring it to Christ. That's what the Bible says itself about the Old Testament. So, but the picture is one. The Old Testament is the New Testament. It's just a picture. It was a type of I guess a symbolism of what is unfolded for us in the New Testament. Now, you're saying that it was restrictive. God's plan was always that he was going to have a people, right? And so God wanted to reach the world, and God still wants to reach the world, but he wanted to have a nation that would be a symbolic of what it means to serve God. This nation was to serve God, and man, it would be like, okay, all the other nations could see, man, we should serve God too. That was the intent. That was the heart of God, that this nation will represent God and that other nations will come and want to serve God as well. God did not limit it to just the Hebrews, but he wanted also for it to be shown. And you can see that he opened it to strangers. Said, any stranger come to you and they want to serve this God, serve your God, allow them in. Let them serve your God. Let them be part of your people. They get the same full benefits. Everything you got, they got the same law, the same rules, everything. So the door was to be open. And so it's the same way in the New Testament. We are as Christians, wherever we are at, we are supposed to be that people that represent God. We might not just all be from one particular nation. We might be from here, from there, from everywhere. But we are to be that people that represent God, that show who he is, so that others can say, wow, I want to serve this guy. I want to know your life. There's something different about you. There's something special about you. There's something godly in you. You got some peace. The Bible says that the kingdom of God is righteousness, peace, and joy in the Holy Spirit. So if we've got God in us, we ought to have those things displaying in our life: righteousness, peace, and joy. Right now, if somebody sees somebody walking in some righteousness,
that's your 2 minutes is up, brother. I'm sorry to cut you, especially when you're speaking about God. I'm going to give it back to Enemy Nation, but before I do that, I do want to say that since Brother MAGA Harvey does not have an issue with the screen shares and things of that nature, then it's all good for the rest of the debate. Enemy Nation, your rebuttal.
Well, I think, I think that I'm not debating on what Brother Harvey said. I just think that I proved that the Old Testament and the New Testament are different. Um, Otherwise, there would, be no need to have a New Testament. If they were both the same, there would be no need for a new covenant. If the new covenant was exactly the same as the old covenant. And I think that I showed that the Old Testament is a little bit more conservative. If we're talking about the conservative in the religious sense, than the New Testament is.
So,
Okay.
I'm going to find your definition of conservative. I agree, that obviously that there is a difference in the Testament, but the purpose and the thought of God, the plan of God has always been the same, to get people to serve him, for his people to be an example. So that's consistent, right? And at that time, and then God is so wise, man. God is wise. It's all for a purpose, right? It had to be that way. It had to be the Old Testament, because through the Old Testament, everybody was trying to live right to the best of their ability. But through the Old Testament, everybody failed. Moses failed, right? David failed. Everybody. Solomon failed. All your best known saints or whatever, best known prophets, everybody failed, right? That's why God had to come. That's why Jesus had to come, because the blood of a bull or goat could not change me the way that the blood of Jesus can change me, right? That external blood could not impact my internal spirit the way Jesus can, right? And so that's why he was so happy when he came, because now he affects me on the inside. Man, it says Christ lives in me. He dwells in our heart. And so now my heart can change, right? I can try to be as good as I want to, but me on the outside, I'm never going to be as good as I want to be. But on the inside, when Jesus comes and changes my heart, man, I tell you, that's how I know God is real, because I struggle with so much sin. I grew up, in the hood and dealing with so much sin and perverseness, man. God changed my heart. God changed my life, changed my desires on the inside. And that's, that was the whole purpose of the Old Testament, but it had to be that way, that we could see that we can struggle as much as we want to. We'll never be able to do it. We need God to do it for us. And that's why Jesus came, so yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Enemy Nation.
Yeah, well, I wasn't debating whether God had changed or not. What I was debating was the difference in the context of the books, or the tone of the Old Testament and New Testament, and
there's a New Testament lesson. Everything from the New Testament.
Hold on, Brother Maga. Let him finish his point.
I'm sorry, I know.
Because this is the last point on this.
All right.
Go on.
Yeah, but that's like I said, debating whether God has changed or not is not the topic of contention, or the point of contention. I think it was the point of contention that I was making was that the Old and New Testament were different, and one part of the Bible is more conservative. If we're looking at it through the definition of conservatism today and religious wise and religious practices, than that of the New Testament, which seems like a little bit more liberal. It's the difference between the Catholic Church and Protestant Church. The Catholic Church would be a little bit more conservative as opposed to a Protestant church. So that's the point that I was making.
Understood. And I believe you communicated that in your part of the debate. If we can go to the next topic, please. And shout out to the chat. I'd like you guys to weigh in on what's actually being spoken in this debate, if you would. That's always appreciated. So the next topic is, there is such a thing as white conservatism, and black conservatism. Maga Harvey, what say you?
Well, I would say that if there is, there probably should not be. I would say that this topic and the fourth topic kind of blend together, because the fourth topic is, then if there's colorblind conservatism, then it favors the white people. And so And this kind of goes to my last point. We were talking about conservatism, and what that actually means to me. So my definition of conservatism is we are conserving traditional values, traditional ways, right? And not necessarily just traditional, but I like to say proven values, ways that have been proven, ways that have been tested, ways that have been tried, ways that we know that work, as opposed to, and I always add this, that they are God-given ways. So God gives man a way, and these are the ways that we are to walk in, right? These are ancient ways, ancient pathways, as opposed to what we would call progressivism, which sounds good, but it's something, when you get into changing what God said, then no, that's not so good. So, but as far as skin color is concerned, the ways should be the ways. Whether a parent disciplines their child or not shouldn't be a white or black thing. Whether a child receives a good education shouldn't be a white or black thing. Whether you work hard, which is my value, you work and you earn what you get. I know everybody, all the black people I know, we're hustlers, and I'm gonna get what I put into it, and as opposed to, let me say, can I say this, as opposed to socialism, which says that give me or you get, just based on who you are. No, so I'm black, or I hustle. I made $5,000 this week. My homeboy, he only made $1,000 this week. Socialism says take 2 of my 5,000, give it to him so he can have 3 and I'll have 3, and we'll both be equal. That don't work. That don't make sense. I don't know any black person or white person that makes sense to, right? If I worked and hustled, then I should receive that, right? And to me, that's conservative. That's conservative values. I put in the work, I get the pay, right? If you don't work, you don't eat. That's part of conservatism. So to me, it doesn't matter whether you're black or white. Now I will admit that part of, or what needs to be a part of conservatism, what really happened back in the day when they first started with the Republican Party or whoever, is that there has to be an aspect of looking out for the little man, or righting wrongs, or looking out if there are injustices, if there's not equal opportunities, if there are things that are not right where I don't have the equal opportunity, then that needs to be made right. I mean, as much as possible. And many times, I will admit, that falls where it's lacking on our behalf. But I won't say it's because of our skin color, just because of traditional values. Maybe grew up and we didn't know how to manage our money, or, just some bad values or whatever's going on. But I would think that if we learned the right way, or if I taught my kids the right way to do it, then, teach them the right conservative way, then they're going to learn to do it the right way. It's not based on skin color. It should be based on values. Right. And I think that's one of the things that I must say, be honest here, that Trump did, which really made me appreciate him, is that he invested money into the black community, right? He wasn't talking about trying to give us reparations, but in a way he was like, look, if you start a business in this community, we're going to give you more money, and that's a blessing, right? And black communities, I'm giving you double the money if you start a business in this community. That's what I'm talking about. We started, we get up off our butt and do our thing, but then that's the type of handout or helping hand that I think conservative values should have. So it's not about skin color, but being able to help yourself and making sure that everybody has an equal opportunity, regardless of skin color.
All right, Enemy Nation, 4 minutes.
Okay, so once again, this is a screen share, and the first thing I want to do is talk about conservatism in the United States, which is really American conservatism. Which, when you go down and you see some of the things, it characteristically shows and respect American traditions. We're not talking about Native Americans or Native Indians. Republicanism, limited government, Christian values, moral universalism, rugged individualism, pro-capitalist, pro-business, while opposing trade unions, advocate for strong national defense, gun rights, free trade, and American exceptionalism. Okay, so it also says, and the defense of tradition and of Western culture. Okay, so we know that Western culture is European culture. And so are we talking about 2021 European culture where it's diverse? Or are we talking about uh, pre 1776? All right. So we say, well, what's American exceptionalism? Right. And because this is conservatism, this is what American conservatism is built upon. So if we look at the history of the concept, it says that the first reference to the concept by name and possibly origin was by French writer Alex de Tocqueville in his 1935-1940 work. So we know that blacks were still slaves in 1835. So we know that blacks were still slaves in 1835. So this couldn't have been black conservatism. Okay, this couldn't have been when it started. You also have it when it started in 1776. The conservative movement. When we look at conservatism in the United States, when we go down to the types of conservatives, you got Christian conservatives, you got fiscal conservative, libertarian conservatives, neo-conservative, paleo-conservatives, social conservatives, traditional conservatives, national conservatism. But when you look at the history, it says that this is a major political party support republicanism and classical liberal ideas in which the country was founded in 1776. So we're talking about the start of the country, the start of the American conservatism, right? Is at the start of the United States, which was not black, it was white. So what are you conserving? Are you conserving white values or European values? Or are you conserving black or a mixture of the both? I would say it was white. So when you say American conservative, you don't have to say black. That's automatically white. Now, black conservatism, and I looked up, all these things about black conservatism. So we see that it exists. There's a Wikipedia page. Actually, there's a Wikipedia page on two Wikipedia pages, because this black conservatism is not just for the United States. It's for Africa, Canada, Europe, Israel, United Kingdom, and the United States. Okay. The colorblind America is right here. We'll get to that in shortly. But you see that there is a particular distinction between black conservatism and American conservatism, which is going to be European conservatism, which is going to be white conservatism. Now, if we look at black conservatism in the United States, right? You see all these groups, the NAACP, and so on. These people that are they'll have the list of politicians, and they're going to all be black. They're not going to be white. Okay, every one of them. Everyone that they're talking about, these groups and these organizations, they're all black organizations, and none of them are white. Okay, black conservatism in the United States is a political and social movement rooted in communities of African descent and aligns largely with American conservative, the American conservative movement. So are we talking about Native Americans, Native American Indians? Are we talking about Hispanics? Because, this was around before these people were integrated into the United States, when it was just mostly black and white. Okay. So also including the Christian right, black conservatism emphasizes social conservatism, traditionalism, patriotism, capitalism, and free market. So it aligns, but there is the distinction between the two.
So,
Mega Harvey, your rebuttal.
Thank you. So not all blacks were slaves, my brother, for one. So there are a few black founding fathers in there as well. So not all of our founding fathers were white. There were a few that were black. Okay, so we can't just say that the ideal, right? And many many of the founding fathers, right, agreed to let go of their slavery. That was the whole when they made that whole statement of all men are created equal. That's what they meant, right? But you had people fighting against that. So you had people that were fighting against us being equal. But the founding fathers that wrote all men are created equal meant all meant all. And it was his purpose or intent to stop slavery at that time. But it took, hundreds of years for it to, actually come to pass because men are evil. But now let me say, so now, even during those times, we had now Black Wall Street, right? Back in the 1800s. Black people knew how to have their own business, right? There were free blacks. The Republican Party was started by Black people. That was like, okay, man, we're going to get our own, right? So because of slavery doesn't negate. Slavery, of course, we know was terrible wickedness, but it doesn't negate the fact that conservatism, right, works for everybody. Owning your own business, having your own, that's a value, whether you're Black or white or whatever. And I add this to that under Trump, we had a 400% increase in Black businesses, Black people owning businesses, which is a wonderful thing, which is very sad. I'm here in Detroit, brother, and I can tell you that we lost most of our businesses, right? We done sold most of our businesses. Detroit used to be a Black city, but none of the businesses are owned by Black people anymore. And that makes me so sad, So to see Trump bring initiatives that get us back into owning business and entrepreneur. That's what American conservatism is about, right? And I know the mistakes of the past. Well, I can't live there, I can't go there. Right now, give me mine, give us ours, and let us do what we got to do with it, right? I mean, Black people have always been, man. If you give us an opportunity, we're going to succeed. And that's it, man. That's us, man. Give us a free opportunity, give us equal opportunity, and we'll make it happen. Right? That's us. So
Mega Harvey, your time is up, but I do want to ask you a question that's coming out of the chat. And I also wanted to know, Black founding fathers, writes the conservative. What are the names of the Black founding fathers that weren't enslaved?
That is a very good question. I don't remember it offhand. I'll be honest. I'm sorry. I know that there was one. I was doing my research. I should have like emblazoned his name in my memory. I would do my best to try to look that up and share that back later. But I don't.
No problem, brother. So
just remember, he worked with George Washington, and he was one of the ones that one of the first ones to go to war with General Washington. That much I remember. But
gotcha. Enemy Nation, your rebuttal.
Okay, I'm not going to rebut the Black founding fathers because I know if you Google search and DuckDuckGo search or wherever you search and you say look up the founding fathers of the United States, Black man is not going to be mentioned. But there might be some people that say, hey, look, well, he did this or that, so he could be considered one. So that's a matter of opinion. It's not being taught in the schools is what I can say, especially if you can't remember or you can't bring that person up. Like I can bring up Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson and Samuel Adams and all those guys. The all men created equal the all men created equal is actually liberalism. It's not conservatism. It is. That's why the United States has a Statue of Liberty sitting in Liberty Harbor or in New York. It's liberal. Okay, all Americans are classical liberals in a sense. Okay, our whole structure of way of life is based off of freedom, liberty. Okay, we have the freedom of speech. We have the liberty of speech.
yes.
We have our Second Amendment rights, right? So that's liberal. That's not conservative. Okay, conservative would be under a monarch and serving as a subject of the king. But we're a liberal. You know what I mean? That's what we founded the country on, liberty. All right. Also, Black conservatism started during Reconstruction. Okay, so we know that there were some some black slaveholders. We know that there were some black people that were free. We know that all black people in this country wasn't slaves, but if they were practicing conservatism, they were practicing European conservatism. They were practicing conservatism under a European system. It wasn't practicing conservatism under an African system. Okay, so
And
black.
I'm going to stop you right there. Now we're going to freestyle this for a minute and a half, 2 minutes. Back on
Okay.
to MAGA Harvey. You want to address some points? I saw you a little animated there.
Right. Yeah. So conservative means, right, that we are preserving the old way. And so when we thought about creating this nation, that's what they thought about. They came here with the thought of God and how does God rule? How does God reign in the world? And God gives liberty, right? Our rights were created. They said we hold these truths to be self-evident, right? That we are created. So all our rights are coming from God. They said our rights come from God. These truths are self-evident. We were created by a creator. And our creator endowed us. He endowed us, the creator endowed us with certain unalienable rights, certain rights that we got from God. So again, they're conserving. We're conserving what we got from God. What God gave us back with Adam and Eve, this is what God gave us now, and this is how we should live. So I agree that there's liberty, but liberty only comes under God, right? If you try to have liberty under man, that's when you have killing babies. That's when you have pedophiles, because they say, well, that's liberty. I can do whatever I want to do. No, you have to have God involved. God has to be the restraining power. God has to restrain your liberty. So under God, right, it's an oxymoron, but that's how God is. You have to submit to God to be free, all right? You have to bow to him in order to have true liberty. So conserving God and getting God involved is how you get liberty, right? It's not from a liberal mindset, nowadays liberal mindset. It's from conserving God. God must be involved.
Enemy Nation.
I mean, the whole serving the United States. Before you have a United States, you have to gain your independence from Great Britain. Okay, so there's a way of life in Great Britain, right? The people in the 13 colonies didn't like that way of life, right? They wanted something more progressive. So they went to war with Great Britain and penned the Declaration of Independence,
Yes.
which is a liberal document, a classically liberal document, not in the current word of liberalism, but classically liberal. That's what it is. Okay. This is the contention point of the slave. They was like, how can you say that you want to have liberty, but yet you have slaves? Okay. So to say that when you read the Declaration of Independence and say, oh, I see that as a conservative document, it was a radical document, along with the United States Constitution. This system that we have in the United States is a progressive system that never existed in the world before. If it wanted to be conservative, it would have went back to some other system that had already been in place throughout the world. That's what makes this country great, was the progressive nature of the founding documents.
No.
MAGA Harvey, you got 1 minute.
Okay, I can appreciate that. We're not going to get into semantics over words, right? It was something new, something that had not been seen before, but they were drawing from the source, and that source was God. God was their inspiration for this nation, right? God gave the law down to Moses. Most of our laws, if you read Exodus, you can see all of our laws come from Exodus, the courthouse laws, everything. So they were conserving everything. They saw God as the source. God is the source of our freedom. God is the source of our liberty. God is the source of our rights. So and from that standpoint, right, they're bringing what God wanted brought in the earth. And again, that's going back to what we were saying before, that this is really right. This is why I believe God's going to bless America. Why God blessed America. God wants to have a people where he can say, this is my people. look at them as an example if you want to serve me, and that's who we should be. So it's not about coming up with brand new ideals. It's nothing new under the sun, right? If you're looking for new ideals, right, or a new way of doing things outside of what God said to do, that's where Satan comes in at. That's the whole bottom line, man. That's where Satan comes in at. God says, plain and simple, don't eat the fruit of that tree. Oh man, if you eat that fruit, you're gonna be smart, you're gonna be wise, you're gonna get power, you're gonna get this, that, or the other. It's gonna be brand new. No, don't go that route. God said this is the way we are. This is what this country is founded on. So made it great is that we're trying to get back to God, right? God is our foundation, man, and God is great. That's why God blessed America so abundantly. That's why they were able to beat the British Army. They came here because in England, they told them how to obey God, right? That was why that was the whole contention. You can't tell us how to serve God.
That's your time, brother. I'm going to give it back for the last section. I'm going to give Enemy Nation 1 minute just to close that section out. And I did a little Googling, and which founding father was black, and it was Benjamin Banneker. And that came off of, was Benjamin Banneker a founding father? So I don't know if it was Benjamin Banneker that you mentioned, but there was a black founding father. And that is the answer to the brother in the chat. I believe his name was something like Hood Conservative. Now, Enemy Nation.
As far as the founding documents and I mean, the founding documents were based off of the Magna Carta, which in itself was a progressive document. The king said that he was ordained by God, all right, and and because he was ordained by God, he could rule over men. That's the conservative opinion. If you believe that, if you're a follower of the king, okay, you believe that. But if you say no, we're given our rights by God, right? That's not conservative. That's not conservative. That's liberal. That's a liberal train of thought. And to, like I said, to twist the words of like I said, Statue of Liberty, the words in the founding documents that talk about liberty and freedom, and say, oh, look, that means conservatism, which actually came after all that, is beyond me. But we can move to the next subject.
All right. So the next topic is, if you can put it up on the screen, brother. Colorblind America philosophy is anti-black and pro-white. Again, colorblind American philosophy is anti-black and pro-white. What say you, MAGA Harvey?
All right. So I'm going to use just a little second of my time to go back there. Liberals hate God. So there is no God in the liberal point of view, right? The Democratic Party voted out God in 1992. There's a video of them saying they don't want God in their platform. And this year in 2020, they said they took God from out saying under God in their oath. So liberals and God don't mix. So you can't claim liberal because God gives liberty. God gives liberty. Liberals don't take you to God. God gives liberty. But all right. So colorblind American philosophy is anti-black. So
tell that to the slaves.
I will say that. I will say that. Hold on, brother. It's my turn now. Hold on. So now I will say that it could be. I'm not going to argue this per se. I'm going to say it should not be, right? If we have colorblind, we definitely need a colorblind philosophy, right? And I think that was part of the problem with the 60s is that some of the conservatives didn't want to put in. So when you make a color philosophy, so you should make a philosophy based on, and I like how Trump did it, those areas. If there's a downtrodden area of people that are suffering, make an opportunity, make sure that they can get a fair shake. And that's not based on color, right? It usually affects those as color, but poor people in all of a certain area. Could be white, could be black, right? So poor is poor. So, but if you make programs, philosophies, whatever, procedures, policies the word I was looking for, policies based on color, then that's where we get into division. That's the game that the liberals have been playing for a long time. All means all. All men are created equal, right? Everything should be for everybody, right? And so when you get in to say, well, but the black people are being discriminated against, black people need these rights, X, Y, Z. Okay, and then the Indians are going to come and say, well, the Indians didn't get those rights. Indians need X, A, B, C, right? And then the transgender people are coming in and saying, well, we need it. So then you get divided. We get more divided. We get more pulled apart because now everybody's saying, well, what about us? What about our rights? Instead of it just saying all means all and respecting that. Make all mean all. Make it mean that for everybody. If blacks are being mistreated, if there's something wrong, then make it right. You know, make a policy that makes it right. But, you know, I would have to think about that. But some way where it's not just saying this is, you know, this is specifically for blacks, this is specifically for whites, this is specifically for, because when you do that, then we become divided, right? We become divided and we get conquered. And it's happened. This is not the first time, right? Divide and conquer. I'm sure we've heard of that before. It's not the first time that this has happened where they try to divide and conquer a people, because that's the way it works. So the left is, they're not so much as far as fixing the problems, therefore identifying the problems. They can identify all the problems. Oh, say this is going wrong, that's going wrong, this is going wrong, but they don't have any solutions, right? Your solution is to get rid of the police. How is defunding the police going to help my black neighborhood? It is not, right? Oh, I get to run, me and my boys get to run the neighborhood now. We get to do it the way we want to, or we get to run this neighborhood. That's not a solution, right? It's really not a solution. It's something that's just designed to play on our division and pull us apart, right? So we have to have things that are looking at people and say, based on their opportunity, based on their economics, but let's not divide by skin color, because when we do, I understand, right, there are things that could be against black people, but if we base things just on our skin color, right, then we're falling for a trap. We're falling for a trap that's gonna.
Enemy Nation. Hey, you stop right on time too, bro. Thank you, Maga Harvey. Enemy Nation, 4 minutes.
Yeah, sorry about that. My dog started barking and I had to put him up. But
How many dog you got?
First, I want to share this colorblind America, and it's just a Google search. I didn't pick on any link, but I mean, this first link right here, or it's not the first link. It is after the ad, but why colorblindness is counterproductive ideology? Colorblindness, racial classification, okay? Because they're going to talk about the negatives of colorblind America, the problem with colorblindness and how it opposes racism. Colorblindness, the new racism, okay? And there have been many books written on this by scholars, you know, and I could go into it, but before I do that, because, you know, Mr. Harvey mentioning Trump, I want to, you know, I voted for Trump too. And the reason why I voted for Trump is because he reached out to the black community more than any other Republican president or Republican candidate has in recent memory. It's certainly since I've been able to vote. But I just want to share this video real quick, part of it. Hold on, let me make sure, because I know you guys can't hear that, right?
Can't hear it right now, no.
You have to share audio as well.
And the Democrats will not big league. And frankly, if they had any doubt, they didn't vote. And that was almost as good, because a lot of people didn't show up because they felt good about me.
Okay, so they came through for us big league. I don't think 8% of the vote is big league.
Tonight, I'm asking for the vote of every single African-American citizen in this country who wants to see a better future. Because I will produce for the inner cities, and I will produce for the African Americans. And the Democrats will not produce, and all they've done is taken advantage of your vote. That's all they've done. And once the election's over, they go back to their palaces in Washington, and you know what? They do nothing for you. Just remember it. So you have nothing.
Now,
I'd like to address an issue
now as I go through
with
this,
their vote.
This count on your 4 minutes.
okay, yeah. So as I go through that video, right, there is nothing but Trump talking to black people. There is nothing but Trump courting black people. Okay. So my point with that is, if there was a colorblind America, there would be no reason for Trump to court black people. He would just say Americans, period. He wouldn't say I will produce for black people when he asked for their vote. He would say I would just produce for all Americans because hey, look, we just colorblind over here. So
I give you
And
the
MAGA Harvey, it's on you. Rebuttal, 2 minutes.
very good, very good. So, right, I agree with you. 2 reasons, right? One is that because the black community has been systematically torn apart by democratic policies, right? We have been the victim of politics and purposeful, vengeful people have been trying to come down on us for a long time. So yes, we need some rehabilitation in our community, no doubt. But look at the things that he did, right? He didn't pass one single policy that said, this is for blacks only, this is for whites only. He gave policies that said, you can get a hand up, you work for yourself and you make it happen. And so that's the type of conservative, that's still, for me, is acknowledging where there's problems, but giving people equal opportunity. And that I'm fine with that. I think that's the way it needs to be. Now, this is the danger of what we're talking about. And this book right here is called, you might not be able to see it, but it's called Color, Communism, and Common Sense. And it's by Manning Johnson, right? And he was a black communist, right? Back in the 60s or so. And he believed that the socialism, they were going, they told him they were for the black people. We were trying to help you out, and all of this. And he realized that all they did was pull. He saw that they were just using our color to cause division and pull us down so that they could tear apart America. That was the whole agenda was, okay, yeah, you black, yeah, you white, it's problems. So they, exacerbate the problem, but they use that to pull us down, right? And that's what we have to fight against, right? Because yes, there are differences, but if we just focus on that and don't focus on real solutions, we're going to end up losing. We're going to end up being divided, man.
Enemy Nation.
all right. I'm very familiar with Manning Johnson. And I'm familiar with communism. Trust me, I got about 20 and 30 videos on communism on my channel. But it's like a 2-hour video specifically of black communists, including Manning Johnson and people like the guy's name, Angela Davis, etc. But this is the platinum plan. And so to say that Trump didn't have any policies for black people, and this whole policy, it says President Trump's promise to black America over 4 years.
That's right.
Increase access to capital in black communities. It didn't say American communities. It didn't say colorblind communities. It said black America. Okay. All these points and these bullets say black Americans. They don't say Americans. They don't say colorblind. All right. So if you're a Trump supporter and you're supporting a colorblind America where we don't see color, we just all Americans, then why you didn't go to Trump and say, hey, look, what the fuck is this platinum plan? We ain't supporting that because that's specifically targeting the black community. So with that, I kick it back to Mr. Harvey.
All right.
Right.
So, brothers, I want to remind you that the part of this question that we haven't really touched upon is that if the colorblind American philosophy is anti-black and pro-white, we talked about that there has been specific plans for black people in America. That's established, but we haven't talked about colorblindness as it relates to being pro-white. So I want to give you guys both 2 minutes to speak on the specific pro-white aspect of this topic.
Thank you. Okay, so and definitely, man, I love the Platinum Plan. I'm hopefully a beneficiary of the Platinum Plan because I'm trying to get some businesses started here in Detroit myself, and we definitely need those opportunity zones. So, but what I think what it's doing, right, is giving opportunities to areas that have traditionally been forgotten about. Areas and right, usually it's the black area, right? Let's keep it real. But the policy itself is not saying, well, only black people can get this money, right? It's whoever's in this neighborhood. We're trying to lift this neighborhood up, but the policy itself is colorblind still. What the danger of, and that's the only thing I'm not going to argue over semantics. The danger of policy, right, is where we fall into being divided. And I'll end it with this. There's nothing that I can't do because of my skin color. There's no law that needs to say, well, and the darkness, the wickedness of it. Okay, let me please explain this to you. Let me shed this light because I work in the school system. And let me tell you what they're saying in the school system. They're saying that because of our skin color, we can't read. Because of our skin color, we can't read like the rest of the kids. We can't do like the rest of the kids. We need to be passed over. That's what they're saying. That's what they're using our skin color to say. That's what they're using these policies to say. And I reject that wholeheartedly. Just because I'm black doesn't mean I can't learn. Just because our kids are black doesn't mean they can't learn. But that's the way they're treating them. They're getting passed from grade to grade. They're not getting any education. They're passing with these terrible knowledge. It's a travesty. This is what they're using those policies for. They're not using it to help us. They're using it to keep us down. If you're saying that because I'm black, I can't do this or I can't do that, or I'm at a disadvantage, that's what they're using it for, brother. And that's
Maga Harvey, are you saying that it is not pro-white?
Huh?
Or that it's not anti-black and pro-white?
Wow. Let's see. Well, when it's I say when it is color blind, then it is just it's for everybody. When they make it pro-black, or when they makes a policy and they start defining it by skin color, it usually ends up hurting us, right? They tell you that they're trying to help us, but they end up hurting us. And I promise you, brother, that's happening in our school system right now. I work in Detroit Public Schools, brother, and I could give you a list. I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to get in trouble, but everybody that teach know what's going on in the schools, man. It's sad. It's very, very sad. And they say based on our skin color. Based on our skin color, we can't do that. Man, no.
Enemy Nation?
So can I ask Mr. Harvey a question?
Certainly, brother.
So do you think that color blindness is pro-American?
I think that we can't be problem blind. There's a problem in our community, right? There's a problem there's many a problem in the black community. I'm not problem blind, but the solution is not a solution that's just going to work just for black people. The solution should be something that works for everybody. So
no, I'm saying colorblind America. The colorblind America philosophy, is it pro-America?
It really, and I'm gonna say this, right? Because in my opinion, or how I see how it's been played out, we have to come back to God, because people that are in power, if you got white people in power.
So you're not gonna answer my question.
I'm gonna say, right, it can go either way. White people can abuse that power, and white people are in power.
I didn't say nothing about white people yet.
Okay, I'm saying
because I'm getting to I'm getting to what Nagmizi was saying, that we didn't address whether it was pro-white or not. And the American way of life is essentially European way of life, okay, which was established, and there's no debate about this, by white Europeans. Okay, so whenever we say American, we're going to picture a white person first. Now we might picture someone like Michael Jordan or Michael Jackson, you know, Whitney Houston from time to time. But throughout the world, when someone says America, a white person can come from, you know, Ukraine, and no one, and they can say I'm American, and no one would ever question that. Okay, they're automatically assumed to be American. Whereas if you're a black, you're assumed to be a descendant of slaves, or you're assumed to be an African. But that's not going to be the first thing that, if you go somewhere else in the world, is what I'm saying. They're not going to assume that you're an American until you open your mouth, or unless you have on an American flag or whatever. And even if you did, that still wouldn't be the first thing that popped in your mind. And so when I say a colorblind America, what we're doing is integrating into white people. They're not integrating into us. Okay. So if they're not integrating into us, then we're integrating into a pro-white system. And I don't want you to get confused and think because a person brings up this topic that we're saying, hey, look, we need handouts or we just can't compete because of racism and this and that. No, you're talking about a person that owned a business for 25 years. I know how to, you know, get in there and get by my business. That's not what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? But what I am saying is that we can't just ignore all the other shit and a person says, hey, look, this shit don't exist. It never existed. And we've moved past that. And just because you got a little money, other people in our communities don't feel that. Okay. So this is what I'm saying. You know.
So I have a question for both of you. And then what we're going to do 5 minutes of free flow talk between you back and forth. You guys can ask each other any question that you feel like, and just have it in a conversation form for 5 minutes. And then we're going to wrap up with 2 minute each closing statements. So now, based off of this last question, my question to both of you is, do you think that there should be a specific plan or policy for the specific situation that Black Americans have gone through in the with our history in America? MAGA Harvey.
I definitely believe there should be something specifically. Unfortunately, my time is short. I do have a meeting that I have to run to really quick, guys. So, but I believe there should definitely be a plan for Black America. I work with Blexit, which is the Black exit from our current culture. So I'm on the boots on the ground trying to help our community every day. Like I said, I think, and I appreciate my brother having me on here today. I just want to say I appreciate a lot of what he said. I think that I recognize that there's a problem, and just going about the way to fix it, we're probably not too far apart on the way that we fix it. But I think it has to be a little bit colorblind. And two things I wanted to bring up was one, that do you know who the most prosperous group of people that come over here to America? The most prosperous group are Nigerians.
Nigerians.
That's
but
right.
Nigerians didn't uproot Jim Crow.
All right, but they make
so they have the benefit of coming over to a fertile ground that they didn't have no hand in making fertile. You see what I'm saying?
They're prospering though. They're prospering, right?
Yeah, they are prospering.
Last time I checked, you wasn't back in the '60s either, brother. But
last time I checked, the United States the blacks in the United States was the number one as far as wealth is concerned, Black nation. If you made it a nation on the planet,
right?
So we can give Nigeria some credit We can
We're
give
not spending our money
Nigerians some
wisely.
credit, but Nigerians also primarily profited the most from the slave trade.
Hmm. All right. The other thing that I wanted to comment
Nagmeeshi
on.
know that because Nagmeeshi's been to Africa throughout. That's the African scholar. He can tell you.
All
See what I'm
right.
saying? The Ashanti tribe and all them. So, if we really want to get wicked about it and get into some history, we can do that on another channel. I'm not going to hold you. I appreciate you coming on. So we can do this. We can do this again. We can have a discussion. It don't have to be a debate. We just had these little kind of points of contention.
Right. And I truly appreciate it, man. Thanks, guys, for having me. I learned something, and I thank you guys, man.
Hey, bro, thank you, and thank you both of you for being respectful. I appreciate that. Hopefully, we can do this again. Have a great evening or a day, and we'll see him on the next one.
Appreciate that, Nagmeeshi. I wanted to answer your question that you asked him. You were talking. What the question was? Do I think that we need policy directed towards the Black community? Yeah, I think so. I think in this Constitution, in the preamble of the Constitution, it was drafted to promote the general welfare of the country. And I think that if Black Americans in this country are the canary in the coal mine. And if you see the amount of disparity in wealth, and whites are starting to see that too, this is why you have the thing like GameStop going on. You see not the riots, but the gathering at the Capitol building. This has been going on this has been brewing along a while amongst whites, where they haven't been represented like they feel like they should have been by their elected officials. And now they're like on both sides of the aisle, on the left and the right, are saying, look, no more. We tired of this shit. Okay. But Black people been saying that since post 60s. We like, look, we done had the civil rights movement, but we still have disparities in health and wealth and so on and so forth. And so we feel like we've been ignored. So I do think that, yes, there should be some policy that addresses those issues that Blacks see themselves, the disparity in education, healthcare, and so on and so forth. So,
all right, last question, and give me a short answer or just a straight answer on this. Do you think that we messed up by letting Trump get voted out of office, if we're going to say that he was voted out and not stolen?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that we should not have voted out Trump, and there were some people that were advocating to hold the vote, which I thought was silly. I don't think it's healthy for Blacks to vote overwhelmingly for one party or the other.
So do you know what the status of this impeachment thing is with him? Because what they're really trying to do is stop him from running for a second term. Do you have any information on that? What's the process like?
About the impeachment?
Yeah. Was he impeached or the trial hasn't started?
I think the trial has started. I don't think they're going to be able to impeach the president. Even if they did, I see the Supreme Court stepping in and saying, "Hey, look, y'all can't do this." You have a 7-2 conservative Supreme Court, so I see them stepping in. You know what I mean? Like, I see them stepping in, and saying that you can't do that. And the only reason that I would see if they were successful in impeaching him is because Republicans probably fear him running for a second term, and they want to, make sure that he can't run. But that's not going to make his base go away. If anything, it'll make it grow.
Yeah, I think so. I think next time around, you're gonna see people coming out for real this time, and not really just resting on our laurels in terms of having the right man in the right position. So, thank you for having me as a moderator. This is my first time moderating. I think I did okay. A couple people in the chat said it was good. Very good and respectful debate. I can't call a winner. It's not my job to call a winner, but I think we all won in the fact that we all learned something. And it's good to have intelligent discourse between two knowledgeable people. So if you're watching this on Facebook, if you're watching the replay on YouTube, hit the subscribe button for more intelligent commentary and what do you call that? Content from Enemy Nation. And if you're looking for other content in terms of more Black related content, especially as it relates to our relationship to those on the continent of Africa, you can subscribe to me. That's my specialty. And until the next time, I say thank you for joining, and subscribe and share and like. Thank you.
And for the people that's watching, subscribe to Nagmezi's channel. It's pinned in the it's pinned above the chat, and I will repaste it in the chat so you guys will know. But this is a good brother. He's a conservative, or at least he leans conservative. He knows his stuff. He's been all around the world. He knows he has a lot of he has a broad understanding of American history and African history, and the roles that these two continents have played with one another. He's how many languages you speak, Nagmezi?
Five.
Five languages. So make sure you subscribe to his channel and give him some love. And we'll try to have him back again. So for everyone that watched this debate, thanks for watching. Thanks for coming. Thanks for liking. And, enemy out.